Welcome back to our next presentation. My name is Jacob Lemke, healthcare analyst here at ABG. Next up, I have the pleasure to welcome Intervacc and their CEO, Andreas Andersson. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. So, Intervacc, we are developing modern vaccine using fusions of recombinant proteins. Our lead product, Strangvac, has been granted market authorization in Europe, including the UK, so by EMA and VMD. And sales has just started in Sweden, Denmark, and in the UK. We are addressing a global and growing market that has shown resilience. Animal health is growing with 5 to 8%, and vaccines are growing faster than that. We have a pipeline of vaccines, and we develop those vaccines in collaborations with primarily Swedish and UK universities, so Karolinska Institute here in Stockholm and SLU in Uppsala. And we're listed on Nasdaq First North. So this technology, fusions of recombinant proteins, it's a modern way to make vaccines. And what we do is that we identify the surface proteins on the bacterials that we are creating vaccines against. And then we take the DNA sequence from those surface proteins that we have identified to make an immune response that we want to stimulate. And we synthetically make that DNA string and fuse them together into a longer string in order to create a molecule that consists of several of those surface proteins. And this technology enables us to make vaccines with an excellent safety profile that is also tailor-made for those specific bacterial infections. And by doing that, we can make vaccines that are addressing bacterial infections that so far been difficult to make vaccines against, so addressing an unmet medical need. Our first vaccine, Strangvac, has been approved by EMA and the VMD, so it has received approval for all of Europe, and it contains no live agent, so those molecules create vaccines with an excellent safety profile. It's very easy to use. It's an intramuscular administration, and that is the way that veterinarians for equines prefer to give the vaccine. It has shown excellent efficiency in published clinical trials, so up to 94%, and that is after the third dose. And we are addressing a global market. So a vaccine that has those properties, a great safety profile, good efficacy, and an easy way of administration, that is what is needed to make a real difference and to address a global market. And key opinion leaders have described this vaccine as a game changer against this terrible disease, equine strangles. So, strangles, it's an equine disease that is highly contagious, and the name strangles says a lot about the disease, that it is a terrible disease that a horse can die from. Today, with modern medical care, only 1 or 2% are dying, but still, this is it's very contagious and can have terrible effects long term on the horse, and also big financial implications for the horse owner or the stable owners. So it's one of the most, if not the most, diagnosed infectious equine disease in the world, and it's a global disease that affects horses everywhere except in Iceland. And there are some 60 million horses in the world. It's highly contagious and common. So if we compare to a disease like equine influenza, so here in Sweden, where we vaccinate a lot against equine influenza, so up to 70% of horses here in Sweden are vaccinated against equine influenza, then we only have a handful of outbreaks per year, often below 5 outbreaks per year. But for strangles, we have often 50 to over 100 outbreaks per year. So, and we believe that with better vaccination rates, higher vaccination rates, we can drive down those strangles outbreaks significantly. And our goal is to reach similar levels as for equine influenza. An outbreak is very costly. you have to quarantine and isolate the horses, and this can be a process that takes several weeks or months with devastating effects for the horse owners. So a big unmet medical need where our vaccine can really make a difference. This market, this global market, it's good to understand that when we're talking about vaccine, you address this a large market. You don't treat sick horses, you address the complete market, the healthy horses, in preventative measure. So out of those 60 million horses, about 1/3 of those horses are in regions where we consider our primary regions. So those are regions where horses are today often in a vaccination program and see a veterinarian regularly. So Europe, North America, Australia, New Zealand, and a few other markets like that. And those primary markets, we say that about 1/3, so 20 million horses. And in those markets, so 30 to 70% of horses are vaccinated, so roughly about half. So those 10 million horses, that's our primary market. But we do intend to reach out to all the markets in the world and address those 60 million horses. And right now we have an approval done for Europe with it's about 6 million horses, about 10% of that global population. And sales has started in Sweden, Denmark, and in the UK. And we expect to start selling Strangvac in other important European countries within short. And when a horse enters a vaccination program, it often stays in the vaccination program for the rest of the horse life. So it becomes a predictable and recurring revenue from an investor perspective. So what we expect here is to launch into market after market, and in those markets we expect that the penetration rate will continue to increase, and we expect to have approval in more markets outside of Europe. So it's a very exciting and time for us to grow together with our launch of Strangvac. If you're talking about market size, so Strangvac today in Sweden for the end user, so at the pharmacist is selling for approximately 30 euro per dose. And how you reach the end customer can vary a little bit from country to country, but we expect that the end user price for the vaccine itself would be around that figure around the globe, so around 30 euro per dose. And we expect that horses, once they have entered into the vaccination program, will take 1 or 2 doses per year. So we're hoping for 2 doses per year annually for horse that's in this vaccination program. Now, we don't control the complete chain to the end user. So for the markets that we sell ourselves, which is in Scandinavia primarily, we have our own distribution and sales. So there we sell to, you have a logistic partner or a wholesaler that then distribute this out to the pharmacy, and the pharmacy then sells to the veterinarian. In countries outside of Scandinavia, we are, or the Nordic countries, we are targeting a distribution partner model where we sell through a distributor. And in Europe, we have a distributor in Detta that we will talk a little bit more about later here. So in using this type of distribution partner model, we get a large share of the revenue to Intervacc, but it's a very scalable model, so we can reach out to a global market without building a sales organization ourselves, but supporting and using global distributors that already has a global network. So we are now in a launch phase of Strangvac, and from approval until we have started sales in the country, we are targeting then key opinion leaders, so important veterinarians that other veterinarians listen to. And we have had discussions with over 100 of key opinion leaders around Europe, and their feedback has been fantastic. And once the vaccine has been started to sell in the country, then we also target more broadly to more veterinarians. And that's the phase we are in now in Sweden, Denmark, and in the UK. For those markets where our distributor is responsible, they are doing the bulk of that work. This vaccine is a prescription pharmaceutical, so you're not marketing this to the end user, to the horse owners, you're educating veterinarians. So for the end users, the horse owners, we are launching and participating in awareness campaigns around the disease, just to bring the awareness higher up and about this terrible disease and the effects it can have, and different measures that you can do to prevent it. So a little bit about the feedback from key opinion leaders. So those examples are from Sweden, where key opinion leaders has been on TV and in presentations, and also in different type of press, both press for veterinarians, but also press for horse owners, with the expectation that with vaccination, you could drive down from 1 or 2 outbreaks in Sweden per week, down to maybe perhaps 1 or 2 outbreaks per year. That's a tough target, but we share that vision. And here's also another example where a key opinion leader, an important veterinarian here in Sweden, says how he vaccinates against strangles with Strangvac. And in this case, this veterinarian is responsible for very expensive competitive horses, and has almost up to 100 new yearlings per year that is then sold into the Swedish market. And they are vaccinating all their foals. And we believe that when you then buy one of those young horses, and when they enter into new owner, it's a high probability they will continue to vaccinate, and also that the probability that they will vaccinate other horses in the stable increases. So this is a very important part of rolling out our vaccine, and I think the feedback had from those key opinion leaders has been fantastic. Many of those vaccinations are performed by private veterinary clinics, and it's likely that they will combine this vaccination and do it at the same time as other vaccinations. For example, equine influenza vaccine that they do annually once or twice per year. And thanks to this technology, how Strangvac is developed with these fusions of recombinant proteins, that is no live agents, that also increases the chances that the veterinarian feel comfortable with vaccinating together with another vaccine without fearing that they will have any complications. So our safety profile there is very important. And horses are often born here in Sweden or in this part of the world in April, May. And when then those horses come into age, when they start to vaccinate, 6-8 months of age, that is now in the fall. So this is an important season for us. Competitive horses are often born a little bit earlier because there is a competitive advantage to be born early in the year. So foals are often born from January all the way to August, with then the competitive horses being born earlier in the year. So that season now starts, and that's an important season for us. Outbreaks is another event that kind of triggers people to enter into the vaccination program. So we're now in the beginning of this sales process, and I feel that the response is fantastic. We are then selling in Europe. We're selling through a distribution partner, Detta, Detta Pharmaceutical is one of the top 10 animal health distributors or companies in the world, but they're particularly strong within equine in Europe, so where they are number 4, with over 7% of their turnover within equine. So they have now started to sell in the UK. Great start. The sales team was very enthusiastic. Response has been very good, and we're really looking forward to this launch, and now launching into more European countries here together with Detta as soon as possible. So within short. So that is a great partner for us to launch here in Europe. We're running those awareness campaigns. So examples of those were in Denmark, where they had the World Championships in Herning, where we participated and informed the public about strangles as a disease. And we had many meetings, both with horse owners, but also veterinarians around the globe. There were many examples of how this global disease can affect. We had a discussion with a horse owner from Qatar who had strangles outbreaks with over 200 horses in that stable. So it's a much wanted vaccine, and we will do our best to roll out this as fast as possible in Europe and then reach also the rest of the world. We're also here in Sweden, in Falsterbo, and those are examples on awareness campaigns where you bring attention to this disease. There are also other campaigns that we can participate in that are already running. So Strangled Awareness Week is running annually, and they started in the UK, and it has now spread across Europe and in Sweden under the name of Stoppa Kvarkan. So this is not a campaign that's led by us, but we can participate and support, and we're very encouraged about that this is spreading across Europe. And we think that's important, that the awareness of the disease can also bring the importance of vaccination. So that's a good initiative that we support. Another important macro factor here is the effort to reduce the use of antibiotics. So the European Union has several initiatives to reduce the overuse of antibiotics, especially within animal health, and to mitigate or to stop the growth of development of bacteria that are resistant against antibiotics. So this is an important goal for Europe and WHO globally. So there are several initiatives, and to highlight some of them, you have this within the farm to fork strategy. There is a target to reduce the use of antibiotics within food production by 50% from 2020 to 2030. And when you reduce the use of antibiotics, the infection pressure often increase. And one of the most important tools to combat that increase is by increased vaccination. So this is very much encouraged by the EU and the industry, and we often get support for our research programs. And you can see how the vaccination increases, and vaccines are now over 30% of the core animal health pharmaceutical business here in Europe, so with high growth. So that is the trend is working for us. Looking into that then, so very importantly, our pipeline vaccines, we are targeting our focused around we're using the same technology, fusion recombinant proteins, and a target around streptococcal and staphylococcus infections. So those bacteria are where we have the best track record and we have the deepest knowledge. And we have a vaccine in the pipeline against Streptococcus suis that has shown very exciting results, where we have shown in an efficacy study that by vaccinating the sow, protection can be transferred over to the piglets through the raw milk, and that's really good positive news for pig swine farmers around the world. So by vaccination, you could dampen the effects of this really serious effect, where piglets in those early weeks of their life can get sepsis and die. So there's about 1 billion pigs around the world, and pig farmers are used to vaccinate. So we see this as a very important future project, and we're making great progress. And we also have a patent that was approved in the US here in the beginning of last year. And with those new results, we've also been able to broaden and search for new patents within that field. We have a patent application also in for the EU since a long time back. So very exciting. We also have a really exciting project within Staph aureus. And Staph aureus is a bacterial disease that affects many different types of animals, including humans. And it's, you may have heard of MRSA, who is a Staph aureus infection that has been resistant against one antibiotic. So this is an important field to develop vaccines against Staph aureus and these type of infections. And here we're first targeting dairy industry, so dairy cows, because here Staph aureus is the main bacterial infections reason for mastitis. So mastitis, when a dairy cow gets mastitis, it affects the productivity, both in that the cow gets very sick and produces less, and also that the bacterial content in the milk may mean that they have to throw away that milk. So mastitis is one of the biggest problems within the dairy industry, and Staph aureus is the most common bacterial cause of mastitis. So here we are targeting to make a vaccine for dairy cows against Staph aureus. And we had a press release here earlier this year where we had shown good progress and good results in a safety study, and also showed that we get a good, strong immune response. And now we're stepping into the next phase here, which is an efficacy study, where we also got a grant to cover part of that cost. So great progress there as well. Same technology, same type of bacterial diseases that we have used in Strangvac. So to sum up where we are right now, Strangvac has been granted market authorization in the EU and in the UK, as well as Norway and Iceland that follows the EMA. Sales has started in Sweden, Denmark, and in the UK, and we are expecting to launch in more important European countries within short, together with Detta. We have exciting results within our pipeline projects based on the same technology and same type of bacterial diseases, so both for Streptococcus suis and Staph aureus. And for Streptococcus suis, we had a patent approved here in the end of last year. So a really exciting future and period for us right now. So with that, maybe there's time for some questions.
Okay. Yeah, I think we have time for a few questions, and I'll start on Strangvac and where you now are in the early launch phase. Can you just talk some more about the reception from the veterinarians, key opinion leaders, and I know, for example, that I think the reception from Menhammar that you mentioned was quite positive.
Yes. So no, it's just I think it's as expected. The key opinion leaders has been on board from the beginning. This field has been started of innovation, and this is a really serious disease and a serious problem. And they have been very vocal in the support. And for example, Menhammar now, when he says that he will vaccinate all his horses, started to vaccinate all the young horses. So I think that's an important part of a vaccine launch, because other veterinarians listen to those key opinion leaders. So, and there's similar stories in other parts of Europe, also in the UK, where in the UK it's also seen like a partial British vaccine, because many of the trials we conducted were in the UK. So that's kind of our second home market. Also, so I think great start, great reception.
And when we look at just Menhammar, for example, he's basically saying that he's looking to use your vaccine as he is using the vaccines for equine influenza, which is what you are targeting long term, or
so he says that he will vaccinate together with equine influenza at the same time. So that would mean 2 or they also, influence also recommend 3 times when you enter into vaccination program, and then revaccinate once or twice per year, depending on the risk profile. And I think that's a very practical way and how to vaccinate. And I think that's often how it will be done. But that's something you discuss, the horse owner discuss with his veterinarian. But that's what he's doing and what he recommends, and it's in line with what I hear other key opinion leaders also say.
Okay, and currently, I mean, the product is commercially available in Sweden, Denmark, and the UK.
Yep.
What can we expect about opening up other markets here during this year, for example?
Yeah, so I had also hoped for being able to do this faster. So we're also frustrated that it's taking some time, but we have, as we said in the quarterly report here, we are expecting to launch in other European countries within short. We press released about the order from Detta, where they ordered for the UK, which is now on sale, and in that we also said that order that was delivered included vials for France and Germany, and among other countries. So it takes time to launch a new vaccine. But we are making clear progress, and it's very much an unmet medical need, and we are expecting to launch in more European countries within short.
And just a final question. I mean, updates on a bit on the path towards getting approved in the US market, and perhaps also when or if if you're going to have to do more studies there, for example.
Right. So when applying for a license to sell and distribute in the US, the process with the USDA or CVB within USDA differs a bit from the European process. And I don't know the FDA process, but as I understand, it's also different from their process. So you don't submit the whole dossier at once. You submit like a start package, which we have done, and then there is a more interactive process. So we don't know yet how long this process will take. We feel confident that we're going to get approval. We had presentations in the US where the reception has also been very, very good, and we believe that this will be likely our largest market. But we are not yet in that phase where we have been able to give an updated timeline on this. So I think I have to stick to that, and I know people are waiting, and as soon as we have news regarding a timeline, then we will communicate that.
Okay. In the interest of time, I think we'll stop here. So I would like to thank you, Andreas, for participating.
Thank you so much for having me.